Welcome to the Alcohol Addiction Podcast. Here is Andy Ramage. How you doing, Andy?
Tip top.
Tip top. So as you can tell, I'm sitting on my arse,
Yes.
which is probably worse than cancer. And Andy is standing up.
Yeah.
I tried the old standing up desk, but I don't know. I couldn't get with it. Apparently, I've got to kind of like get through the pain barrier to kind of get the net results. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I actually put an article about this out on LinkedIn, and it's had something like 300,000 views. It literally just went viral. It's just insane. I built my own one in the office.
Right.
I'm at home now. This is a wind-up one, but I built my own one out of Coke cans.
Right.
Quarters was my first prototype, and it was like a giant game of Jenga, because over like literally for the whole week, the lads were slowly drinking my desk. So by the time Friday come, it was sort of almost falling to pieces. But I thought, I quite like this. I'm going to roll with it. So I got a really cheap one from Amazon. It was like 50 quid.
Yeah.
And that's still the one that I've got in the office now. So I wrote this article about it, and clearly there's loads of interest, I think, in standing desks at the moment.
Definitely. I guess because more and more people are sitting on their arse all day in terms of the work that they do. So they're looking at anything, any kind of like hack,
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
did it hurt your back to begin with, though?
No, but I was that classic, I'm just sort of over 40. I'm 43 on Monday, actually, just turned. But, it's like my back was getting sore and it was annoying me. And I was like, why is my back getting sore? Right, I'm just going to mix things up a little bit. And the standing desk was part of that. And then I read some brilliant science behind it, not to get too distracted, but that you actually burn real stealth calories when you're standing. Your body doesn't go looking for them back by making you eat more or sit on your ass, basically.
Right. And so we're not going off on a tangent. Don't worry about it. I love all these little hacks. So how long do you stand for? Like all the time, or do you sit down sometimes as well?
No, well, I've tried everything. So I had the gym ball behind me, then I had a chair. And what I found is if the chair was there, it was too easy for me to sit down all the time. So then I just burnt my bridges, as it were, and I ditched the chair completely. So there was nothing. So what tends to happen is if one of the lads goes for a water or whatever for a cup of tea, I'll just jump in their chair for 5 minutes. So
yeah.
I'm basically standing on and off all day. And then lunchtime comes, and then I don't mind sitting around at lunchtime, which is quite nice, if you know what I mean, rather than the usual story. You almost want to get up and move around.
Well, you've got a lot of books behind you. I love a man with books. It's interesting. Every time you go into someone's house and you see bookshelves, you always look, don't you, to see which ones you've got, Off the top of your head, what are the one or two books that have been priceless to you in terms of your, your journey, so to speak, about going from where you once was to where you are today? And they don't necessarily have to be alcohol books. What are the one or two that really inspired you?
Yeah, and I can sort of trace my life through books. I'm one of these people. I'm always reading. But the one that changed everything for me was the real classic seminal book from Anthony Robbins, Awaken the Giant Within, which I'm sure you're aware of.
Yeah.
That sat on my bedside table, I'd say, for about 6 months, a year. And I can normally tell you exactly where every book came from, because it was a recommendation, or I read it in a book that led me to another book. I'm one of those. I can't tell you where that book came from. It just seemed to appear as if by magic, one of those ones. And it just sat there, and I thought, I don't fancy that. I don't even know where I got it from. And I picked it up one evening, I can remember, and I just could not put this thing down. I was like, oh my God, I think like a lot of those type of books, you have to hit them at the right time and they just speak to you. Maybe I could have read that 2 years earlier or 2 years later and it wouldn't have quite worked, but it just changed everything. I thought, oh my God, what I realized right then and there is that I have total control myself of my actions and of my emotions and all those sort of things. And that really unlocked a whole journey where I went off and studied NLP and mindfulness. And really, in many ways, that led to the genesis of this whole adventure that I'm on. And then other books that always stand out. There's two. I love Seneca. I love philosophy, Stoicism in particular. On the Shortness of Life. It is a little short book, but it's a game changer. Seneca is absolutely amazing. That's probably the book that I recommend most. One other book is, which I'm really loving at the moment, and this is more the spiritual side of things that's coming out of me. It's called Falling Upwards by a guy called Richard Rohr, R-H-O-R.
What a
that's
name.
The book. Yeah, it's a strange name, but that's the book that I've read most. I've read that 4 times now, that book, from cover to cover.
Wow, it has to be good to read it, because you're probably like me, right? You can never read every book that you want to read before you eventually snuff it, right?
Yeah.
So what you read is really important. So it's like going places, right? Man, I don't really want to go back there because, you know, there's other places in the world to see. So it's got to be a good book if you've read it 4 times. You said about Seneca philosophy. When I quit drinking alcohol, it's no exaggeration to say for the first 35 years before that, I must have been a zombie. Don't get me wrong. I must have been an half-decent zombie because I did okay in my life and stuff. But I never really asked why enough, you know?
Yeah.
And then when I stopped drinking, all of a sudden, I'm asking why all the time. I'm philosophizing. And I really think that was like a big deal for me. Like it really made an impact on my sobriety and kind of in a long-term kind of thing. How was it for you? How did your mind change in terms of asking the deeper questions in and around drinking?
Oh, huge. Probably really similar to yourself in many ways. I look back and think it was sort of my kryptonite.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like yourself, I had this successful career and all those really, you know, obvious trappings of stereotypical success in terms of I run an oil brokerage in the city. I still do run an oil brokerage in the city. But I got to that mid-30s type of stage, and alcohol was a huge part of my life then. It's how I entertained, how I socialized, how I celebrated, commiserated, you name it. It involved booze. That's just was the setup of my life. And when everything changed, you know, finally I had that clarity of mind to question all the things in my life, whether I liked them or not, question, you know, my own relationships in terms of friends and who I was aspiring to be. It totally unlocked my world in so many ways, you know, that I feel blessed in some ways. And actually the book that I mentioned there, Falling Upwards, is all about that really, or the classic hero's journey. I don't know if you're familiar with Joseph Campbell and all those.
Yeah, I've got that one, yeah.
Yeah, which is fantastic. But, you know, I think in some ways it's a blessing that the alcohol thing tripped me up a little bit, that made me actually stop and reflect. And once it removed from my life, I got all this time and energy back. I questioned everything, you know, from my diet. That's why my diet started to change, to what I was reading, to how I was exercising, to mindfulness. And I haven't stopped questioning things. I can't stop. You know, I think once you see behind the matrix, it's a little bit like the film, isn't it? You take the red pill, you're never going to be the same again. And I know I won't ever be the same again because I never believed conventional wisdom, which so much of it is bullshit, especially around alcohol, the conventional wisdom that you need it to be successful and fun and cool and sexy and all that absolute rubbish. And once I realized that wasn't the case, I was like, hold on, there's probably lots of other things in my life that I can question that are maybe holding me back. So it was a total game changer for me.
So you've got all these different thoughts flying through your head. You're going through this wonderful transformation where you stop drinking alcohol. You're feeling more energetic. You're on this mission to do all these things. And it's all because you stopped drinking alcohol, right?
Yeah.
So how did you balance all of that enthusiasm with looking around at your friends and your family who were falling down the same trap, who were zombies, who were stuck, who weren't unplugged yet, and you have this desperation to want to unplug them? I mean, we just had someone on the forum this morning say about their husband, you know, it's like, he's drinking and it's driving me fucking nuts, and I can't handle it with him. I'm talking to him and it's all blowing up. How did you handle that? 'Cause I know I didn't handle it very well. I'm interested in how you did it.
Yeah, I mean, and again, for me, being a broker in the city, I couldn't run away from it. I was instantly thrown back into the mix constantly. You know, I had to take clients out. You know, I could say, right, I'm not drinking on a Monday, and on a Wednesday, I'd have to entertain.
Yeah.
So it instantly put me back into the fray. So I did a lot of, in the early days, stealth drinking, i.e. I didn't drink, but I pretended that I was drinking.
Right.
Because I didn't have the confidence to turn around to clients, for example, and say, I'm not drinking. So I'd just pretend, you know, I'd get alcohol-free beers, 2 of them, pour them into a pint glass, you know, all the silly things that you almost don't think would work, but they actually did, because I think I was known as a big drinker, a big entertainer. So everyone just assumed if they see something in my hand that looks anywhere like a drink, they would never question the fact that maybe it wasn't a real drink in quote marks. So I did a lot of that in the early days. And then really after that, I worked it out quite quickly. Preaching for me wasn't going to work. You know, people don't want to be preached to. They don't want to be told what to do. But what I did realize really quickly is that when I started to look great, I started to lose weight, and my eyes were bright again, that actually being a role model and just being, you know, just going about my life in the same way, but loving it, alcohol-free, was having a much bigger impact on those people around me rather than actually trying to say to people, look, you should stop or you should slow down.
it's this. There's two things that come out of that I want to touch upon. One is you say you realize that preaching wasn't doing you any good, and we all kind of know that anyway, don't we? But it just seems to be our modus operandi, right? It's just like the way that we work. But if you think about it differently, innit, Andy, you just look to yourself and go, okay, got this person who I really, really don't want to drink, and I can't change them, but I do want to preach to them. So how can I do it in a different way? Like, how can I remove the preaching but have the same effect? I created the Alcohol Addiction podcast. You create OneYearNoBeer. You start looking after yourself, and all of a sudden, you're delivering the same message, but in a completely different, more empowering, not in your face, boundary held way, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that's so key. As you've hit the nail on the head there. What you do and what we do is the same. It's the same idea. It's just like, actually, there's nothing to give up. This is my big message, and everything to gain. So we're all about talking about those advantages. You know what? You're going to wake up and feel bloody great. Just imagine what it's like to get up on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning and be able to play with the kids and be clear-headed. You know what it's like to actually look at your diet and exercise, get your motivation back, to save money, all these things. So we try and steer it all to the positives. You know, the alcohol-free advantage, I think, is a massive advantage. The
other thing you said about the stealth drinking, about going out with clients, I've been there when I worked in the rail industry for 20 years. And whenever there was a big rugby international on in Cardiff, and I hated rugby, but we'd have to take British Coal out, you know, or BP out. And we'd have a credit card that we could just go to town on, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And I think back now, what would I have done back then? I probably wouldn't have stealth drink, because I'm just a stubborn idiot, right? But I actually think that had you not drunk, that would have generated a completely different conversation, and they would have looked at you and thought, "Wow, I've got some admiration for this guy, and this guy's going places." Do you know what I mean? It would have been unusual for them, out of context, but it would have been very different. I just interviewed Rinat Stralhofer. She's a storyteller. A couple of episodes before you, hasn't come out yet. And we touched upon people being afraid of being in the OneYearNoBeer community or being in my Strive community, because they don't want prospective employers to look in and see that they've got a pass. And she's teaching businesses to look at these people who are what she calls flawsome, who are open to telling their story, and to hire them and to tell people to tell their story. So you go for an interview, guy turns around and says to you, "What is the biggest conflict situation you've ever had in your life?" "Oh, well, one day when I got absolutely," you know, and you talk about it, you overcoming something as huge as alcohol. That's massive, isn't it?
Yeah, and exactly. And that's what we're trying to do all the time, really, is share those stories, because it's people's stories that matter. But
definitely.
And again, you know, what's great about what you do, and the same with us, is trying to break down that stigma, because this whole area of alcohol is so stigmatized in so many ways that it scares people away for exactly that. They're worried that a future employer or someone might actually look upon them and think they're flawed or they're weak, when actually it's not the case at all. You know, everyone's got little ticks and issues flying around. No one's absolutely perfect. And actually, I think the alcohol one is such a powerful one now. And you're right, the world has changed so much. To say I gave up officially 3.5 years ago since I stopped drinking, but really it was probably 5 years prior to that I started to slow down and take breaks and slowly wean myself away from it, because I knew it wasn't doing me any good. But even in that 5 years, the environment that I'm involved in has changed so much. You know, in the right way, to the point that if I went back in time now and 5 years ago, or now actually said, "Look, I'm not drinking," people probably exactly as you just described would go, "Whoa, that's pretty impressive. That's pretty cool." You know, and I would stand out almost as a broker, as someone who didn't drink, rather than following the mass crowd, as it were. So I think that's what OneYearNoBeer is about, and what you're about is actually making it easier for people to do this and people to look around and go, "That is pretty cool."
Yeah, I got Michelle, who's a member of the Strive Community Forum. She races on sailboats, and when she first arrived, she was on this boat where they would get absolutely fucking K-lied, right? From the moment they got on the boat, they would just drink non-stop. And I couldn't think of a more dangerous situation.
Yeah.
And now she's a role model. She's the only one who doesn't drink.
Yeah.
And she's the safest, right? So as a broker, if I wanted to hire a broker, do I want to hire someone who's sober, or do I want to hire someone who's not, and they both got the same skill set? Then I'm always going to go for Andy Ramage, right? And I think people have a choice, don't they, when they talk about their alcohol? They can shy away and be embarrassed about it and be the odd one out and feel a little bit weird, and all those psychological kind of like stories that we've created for so many years and put ourselves in to be part of the tribe. Or we can turn around and say to ourselves, okay, this is powerful shit. What I've just done is fucking rock and roll. So I'm gonna tell people, hey, look at me, look what I fucking did, right? You know, if you do it right, you're not going to put people off. You get the odd dickhead, just get rid of them. Most people would be really, really interested in how you did it, what you did, the effects, and that all of a sudden is how you become a role model. And you are what have you got, like 25,000 members or something? I mean, that is huge to touch that many people, you know. Yeah,
and it's only getting bigger for the exact same way. Really, it's just be the role model and sing about the good things, because. You know, the genesis, or really the creation around OneYearNoBeer, because when I first stopped, again, call it 4 or 5 years ago, I started looking into this. I couldn't find anything. That suited me. You know, you had the classic organisations that wasn't for me at all, as wonderful work as they do. And I was having this amazing experience. I was like, exactly as you just described, I was like, this is brilliant. Why didn't I do this years ago? I feel bloody amazing. I'm losing weight. I'm getting fit again. I'm taking on all my goals. I'm smashing it out of the park. My home life is 1,000 times better. Mm-hmm. So I was having this really buoyant experience where I wanted to sing, you know, from the rooftops. And then when I actually looked at what else was available over time, I would see a lot of the opposite. I'd see the very much doom and gloom. I'm giving up. I'm missing out. I'm giving up. I'm missing out. That down. And I was like, this is completely different to the experience that I'm having right now. And that was the idea behind OneYearNoBeer. It was like, let's go and create something that's a celebration of taking a break, not the opposite. And I think that's touched people, if you know what I mean, in some ways, that they like that idea. There are some people out there that believe that alcohol is a brain disease. There are other people like yourself who are more kind of along the psychological side of things. You talked earlier about the Matrix earlier on. You know, we all remember that moment where, well, we don't remember the moment. Keanu Reeves, he suspects there's something wrong, but we don't know when that begins, if you remember. He just wakes up one morning, and someone says, hey, Neo, you've been searching for Morpheus, right? So we don't know when Keanu had it. When did it hit you? When did you when did you think, oh my God, my life's shit, I need to stop drinking alcohol? When did you realize that, hang on a minute, what I've been doing is insane, because it's not doing anything for me other than the opposite of everything I thought it did? When did you start realizing that there was something there psychologically completely wrong about alcohol? Yeah, for me, again, it was probably about 5 years ago. I just had this really niggling feeling in the back of my mind all the time that I had all these things I wanted to do, dreams and goals. And I kept saying to myself, if you give up alcohol, it's going to happen. But I was struggling to give it up, because I was so psychologically conditioned, and my job, it was part of my life. So I'd do a couple of weeks, and then I'd slip up again. Then I'd do 3 weeks. And then constantly in my mind, I was saying, look, if you can just crack this alcohol thing, then everything, you know, will change. And it's really interesting. That went on for about 2 years, on and off, of me taking like decent breaks, maybe 6 weeks off, 2 weeks off. Then I'd be out with clients and it'd go out the window, sort of thing. And it just reached the point where I actually said to myself, I can remember it, walking to the train station, do you know what? Let's just stop saying, if you give up alcohol, you're going to achieve all this amazing stuff. Because actually, psychologically, you're not doing yourself any favors, because I don't think you're probably going to give up this alcohol thing anyway, because it's just part of your life and it's part of your job and whatnot. And surprisingly enough, it was probably about 3 weeks after that I actually quit, and then haven't looked back since. I think I gave myself that little bit of space. So it was always there. But then when it really kicked in was about 3 weeks into that, you know, the period that I'm in now, let's say. I got to 3 weeks, and I really remember it. I had a great day at work on a Friday. I woke up Saturday morning. The sun was shining. You know, my wife was in love with me. The kids were on top form. And I thought, this is bloody brilliant. I haven't felt like this I just can't remember when. You know, it was just that moment, I think, where I'd slept really well. Obviously, my body was recovering. My eyes were bright again. And I thought, you know, I want this on a Sunday. Do you know what? I want this on a Monday, a Tuesday, and a Wednesday, and a Thursday, and a Friday. I want to feel like this. And that was a real turning moment, because even then, in my story, I was getting loads of pressure. I was getting serious pressure 3 weeks in from people at work, from clients. Like, what are you doing? You can't, enough's enough. Get to the end of the month and then get back on the booze, because that's how you're going to do your business. So those stories were really building up. My boss, the guy that I absolutely admired, would drink 2 bottles of wine a day without fail, and some. This was the environment that I was in, and these people were telling me, don't do this. Your career is going to seriously suffer. And, you've got a family and children and blah, blah, blah. That weighs heavy. But it was around that 3 week mark, just to look back, that I thought, you know what, sod everyone. I'm sticking with this. I'm onto something here. I'm just going to keep going. And that was, 3.5 years ago.
How did when everyone was telling you that if you stopped drinking, your career would go down the Swanee because you're expected to entertain people, I assume you didn't quit your job, because you're still in that kind of business now. Were they wrong?
They're wrong. Yeah, completely. And Rory is the co-founder as well. He doubled. His business was up 50%. I think his, expenses were down 30%. My business was much better. In truth, I did leave my job because I needed to get out of that environment, because again, the guy that I admired, my boss at the time, the owner of the company, that was just the way he was. And I'd grown up in that environment in terms of that business. And it was very difficult for me to change that persona that I had within that business. So it wasn't the only reason I left, but I did leave for some of those reasons to set up a new business. So I'm still in the oil broking, but I set up a new business, which was great. So I went into a new business and I don't drink. So now I'm the boss. The guys in my office see something completely different. I mean, they all drink, not all of them. They entertain, but they drink a way lot less than I'm sure they would have done had they, their role model been different. So, it was a real big change. But no, it hasn't affected business at all, because people like to talk to people that are on the ball on a Friday morning and a Thursday morning, because there's periods where everyone's hungover. You look at the City of London on a Friday morning, and I reckon it's probably operating at about 50%.
In Wales, it was always Monday morning.
Right.
Yeah, the trains would be empty. Because Sunday in Wales was like a huge drinking day from 11 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, and then you'd go to work in the morning. Like, you're obviously drink driving as well. People don't think they are, but you are. You'd always be over the limit if someone was going to stop you, But because you had that sleep, you kind of lie to yourself, don't you? Okay, I got a question for you. It's a personal question, this is actually, but people listening will also get something out of this, I'm sure. So I read your article in Metro. Somebody on the Strive forum sent it to me. And I thought to myself, wow, look at him. He's completely transformed himself physically. He looks great. He's got like 6 packs going on. He's created this new business. It's buzzing. It's flying. How do you fit it all in? Because I have a lot of people on the forum who they quit drinking alcohol, and then all of a sudden it's like all these whys come up. They're unplugged from the matrix. They're diving into everything. And then all of a sudden they get afraid. They get fear. They get anxiety that everything's becoming too much. And the wife or the husband's no longer involved because they're just down this path for 100 mile an hour type of thing. And I'm very like that. Today, I'll probably lock myself in front of my computer, trying to build Strive Community Forum, trying to help more people quit alcohol, and hardly see me family because I have a day job as well. How did you manage all that?
I think a lot of it really was, again, the great irony is it only was allowed to happen because I stopped drinking, because that just freed up my time again. Mornings were back on the cards, and what I do really is a lot of my work in the morning. So I get up at 5 a.m.
Right.
So I've experimented with that. You can't, I got it wrong at the start. I tried to beat the Sandman and go to bed at normal time and then get up at 5, and you do that for a couple of weeks and then you can't keep your eyes open. So I made loads of adjustments in my life. I sat down with my wife and said, look, this is what I want to do. If for me to achieve this, to get up at 5 o'clock, I need to go to bed at 9 o'clock. I need the 8 hours sleep. So we started to change what we did of an evening. We reflected on everything. For actually, from that 9 to 11 period, really, what we're doing, watching crap TV or box sets, it's just wasteful. We're half asleep anyway. We're half dead. We're just staying awake for the sake of it. What created lots of time for me was really the mornings. And then I was super disciplined about it. I'd jump up, get on it, get in front of the computer, write, think about all these bigger ideas. I actually went back and finished a degree as well. I'm still doing my master's degree actually in positive psychology. So loads of things bubbling away, but really it was the alcohol that allowed me to do it. You know, it was giving up alcohol that allowed me to do it. It gave me the time, the clarity of mind, and the motivation. I've just got super motivation now to get up and do this stuff. I don't want to waste one more second of this short and precious life. And like I said, I've got you know, a lovely young family as well, and I've got two daughters, 8 and 11. But I see so much more of them now, even though I do 10 times more than I ever did before. I'm just about, and you know, I'm in, you know, mentally I'm in the room. Before, you know, you're carrying that fog of hangover and lethargy, or you're a bit tipsy because you're coming home after a few, you're just not quite with it. So even though I work 10 times harder now, I feel like my home life and that balance, let's say, which is impossible to get a perfect balance, is way better. So it's allowed me to just power on and do so many things.
That's a good point, actually. You just made me realize that when I got 2 kids. I got one 16, one 1, and the 16-year-old doesn't live with me anymore. And of course, I was a drinker when the 16-year-old was a little one. And I see so much of my 1-year-old now. I put her to bed at 8, so I'm there with her. Like I was there with her last night she slept with me from 8 o'clock till 7 this morning. I'm in the house because I work from home, which I can do because I quit alcohol and quit my job straight after that. You know, so even though I'm saying I haven't got it right, you just made me think that I actually do see him a hell of a lot more than if I was back in my old life where I was drinking and worked on the railway, you know?
Yeah, and I think, you know, balance, we all talk about balance, work-life balance, all that sort of stuff. But I think when you're passionate about something, there's never going to be balance, you know, in the most positive sense.
It looks very different, doesn't it? So like you're at what, 25,000 members, right?
Yeah.
I've got an email subscription list of 130 and 15 core members checking in on the forum every day without fail, right? So we're at the beginning of something. So for me, balance is I need to put everything into this right now. And then eventually when I can hire somebody, then I can take my foot off, and now my balance will shift to more family orientated stuff. So I never look at balances in the, we've got 8 hours sleep, or 8 hours with my family, 8 hours at work. I'm kind of like, no. For the next couple of months, I really need to do this, and I need your support when I do it, type of thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly that. You know, there isn't almost that perfect balance when you're all in and you're doing these things. But the difference is, because we don't drink, that those moments, which might be slightly less, are so much richer because you're switched on and you're in the room and you're, you know, with your 1-year-old. I mean, it's just so precious. So, you know, I get up, I see the girls all the time. You know, I do entertain at work, but it's a fraction of what I used to do because so much of it was needless. So much of mine, you know, when I really started to analyze it, I realized that 90% of the so-called entertaining I was doing was just me with the lads in the pub, just being lads in the city. You know,
yeah.
You know, the clients weren't even there.
And let's be honest as well. Your time with your kids now compared to your time with your kids when you was a drinker. You said, I see my kids now. Well, we can all see our kids, but what we do with them, the focus and the attention and presence is completely different when you're not a drinker, right?
Oh, 100%. And I studied a bit of NLP. I love NLP as well. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
And I studied with a guy called John Grinder, who's the co-founder of NLP. And I was on one of these courses, and he was basically talking about mindfulness. He never called it mindfulness. I wasn't really aware of mindfulness back then, I must admit. And anyway, I sort of took this being present in the moment home with me, and to my daughter, and she likes to play this face painting game. So just before she goes to bed, she paints my face, like Brad Pitt, hopefully. Unfortunately. Or you know, whether it's Superman or a fairy or whatever. And this particular night I went home having, you know, I had this conversation with John Grinder, and I didn't realize I was being mindful, but I thought, I'm just going to totally focus on what's going on here. I'm going to throw everything into this little game of painting a face. And honestly, it almost makes me feel emotional thinking about it now. It's the most beautiful 10 minutes I think I've ever spent in my life. I've just, you know, really being in the moment with her. And I could tell she was radiant as it was going on. She knew I was really with her and I was really present for her. You know, and you think back to all those nights I would have come home and just tried to do something really quickly. You know, you're all done. You look like a fairy.
Now get to bed.
Go to bed now. I'm off. Do you know what I mean? And it was just a super powerful moment that stayed with me forever. And then I realized actually in hindsight, really, it was pretty much mindfulness or being present.
There's a lad on our forum called Lee, and we were talking the other day about our parents. You know, you're the same age. You're 43, I'm 42. Lee's 40, 41, something like that. And we were from the north of England. Our parents are like old school, very stoic, but not in a good sense, kind of miserable bastards, right?
Yeah.
And we were saying the only word we ever remember them saying was bed. Like they would get home from work and be like, "What the kids doing up? Bed." You know. When you told me that little story, then it said you was getting emotional. I was getting emotional, and I actually believe that as human beings plugged into this matrix, we lose the ability to really deeply connect at a very young age, probably when we're going through our teenage years, because it's deemed as being inappropriate, or it's not cool. Whatever it is, we lose it. And then we can't get it back because it feels so uncomfortable to just look someone in the eye. And when I went to Burning Man, I always tell this story. I went to Burning Man and we was in this tent and we all had to walk around, all these complete strangers. And we had to close our eyes. And then this guy said, "I open them." So I opened them and right in front of me was this big guy. I don't even know where he's from. Face paint on him and dressed up like a girl with a tutu on. And I had to dance for him. Right? I had to dance, and not just dance, but like the attention you gave to your little girl.
Yeah.
I had to do that. And he's crying, I'm crying, and I leave thinking, what the fuck's just happened to me?
Yeah.
And it was just connection.
Yeah.
Now what happened? I looked at him and I thought, how can I look into another man's face? And I realized coming away, I have a real problem with men, in terms of intimacy. Like he's been dropped into me very young. But there was no way I would have been able to do that had I been a drinker. It's almost like it unlocked something in me. Like I'd been buried somewhere deep down, and all these feelings of connection and stuff have been missing. And I'm not saying I'm deeply connected every day. I bet you're not. But we're more likely to get those moments than we ever were when we was drinking.
100%. And I remember a similar sort of experience. I did a few MBSR, mindfulness-based stress relief courses. And there's points in that where you do a meditation. It's like 5 minutes long where you just stare into someone's eyes, and they're like a foot away. And for a man, I just found it, so difficult because along those lines, I'd be trained that if someone looks at me in the eyes like that, it's game on, right? We're going to end up in a punch up here, you know. And then to try and do it in that setting, I found it really difficult. But like you, once I got over it, it was one of the most powerful meditations I'd ever done. Just look at another man, just hold their gaze in their eyes like that for a prolonged period of time was like, whoa, that's huge. And very similar to your story, it does. I think it makes you more accepting of these things and actually start to reconnect with who you are and connect with other people, and then that flows into the bigger picture. And none of that would have happened exactly the same as yourself had I still been drinking. It just wouldn't be on my radar.
I think the key there is what you said was we discover who we really are. So once we discover who we really are, then that gives us the confidence to then be who we really are with other people. Because I imagine when you're out there with your clients and stuff back in the old days, there's a facade there. You're wearing a mask, right? You're not really Andy Ramage. You just, okay, a game on face, right? I've got to go out and do that.
Yeah.
And I think when you're a non-drinker and you get in touch with who you are, you're more authentic. Yeah, we understand how to win friends and influence people, and the Robert Cialdini books and the Dale Carnegie books. They help us to use our own authenticity to its maximum power. It's not being inauthentic. So I can imagine you still do go out and do a fantastic job. Every day I try to get someone to come on Strive. I'm not doing it because I'm trying to sell something. We're all marketeers, but we're doing it because we want to change somebody's life. It's completely different, right? Yeah,
exactly. And that's, you say, I can still put the game face on if I need to, and I'm out socially and I can be that larger than life type of character. But my journey with it was really interesting in the sense that I definitely used alcohol as a social crutch, as it was like my pint of extroversion.
Mm.
You know, I'd go out and I'd be the entertainer and that flamboyant guy, because really I was having a few drinks and I was turning into this extrovert. And it was probably only about two years ago. If you'd asked me, was I an introvert or an extrovert, I would have point blank said extrovert. And I'm not at all. You know, since the booze is gone, I've realised that I'm very introverted. I tick, you know, almost every introversion box in many ways. You know, and I read the book. That's a great book. I'm sure you probably read it. Is Susan Cain, Quiet?
No.
It's a fantastic book. It's about introversion, basically,
Right.
and the power of introverts. And I remember reading that book and went, oh my God. And I stopped reading the book halfway through and I said to my wife, and it was like completely over the top. I was like, Tara, do you know what I am? Right. And I left this really big, like long dramatic pause. I bet she was thinking Ginger Fool or worst, put her out of the bins in the world. You know what I mean? I left a big gap and I was like, I'm an introvert. And she just erupted laughing. She thought it was the funniest thing that she's ever heard because of my dramatic pause, I think, and because it sounded so shocking. And then when we actually went through the book, we were like, tick, tick, tick. I was like, that just makes so much sense to me now. That I don't like big crowds. I don't like speaking, particularly in front of people. You know, all those things that would drain me of energy. And here I was at 40, 40, I discovered that. You know, for 40 years, I believed I was something that actually I wasn't really. And that's a really powerful thing about drinking as well, or not drinking, as the case may be.
Yeah, I remember taking a Myers-Briggs test in work. We all did it, and we all had to move. Like one end of the room was where all the E's went, and the other one was where all the I's went. And everybody almost went to the E side after they'd filled it in. I think I was an ESTP or something. And then there was a few I's. And then you looked, you were like, yeah, they're the soppy, quiet, miserable ones. And here we are, all the happy-go-lucky leaders of this company. And it was a lot of bollocks, really, because we were scoring ourselves based on our facade, on our mask,
exactly.
on who we choose to show to the world. Whereas if you quit alcohol and you learn to find who you really are, 9 times out of 10, I don't care who you are, you're going to end up as an introvert, because I think what you discovered there is the very essence of what it is to be human.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a beautiful thing now. So I can go out socially and I don't have to be that guy anymore. I don't have to be the guy leading the charge. I can just turn up and be me. And it is wonderful. It's liberating not to have to be that guy. And even just to expand on that story, what would happen to me a lot, I'd go out and I'd entertain and I'd be this larger than life. And then I'd meet some of these people the next day. And I couldn't, I couldn't understand, I couldn't compute as to why I couldn't be that person the next. I still hadn't even made the association. It's so silly, but I was like, why am I not like the man? I'm almost was in my shell. I just wanted to go home and be with the kids and read some books and learn some stuff. And they're all like, here he is. Here's the crazy kid from last night. And I'm like, hi. Do you know what I mean? And I couldn't. I never even made that association, and it confused me all the time. I was like, I don't really understand it, and I think it confused other people as well, because they were like, hold on, I thought he was but it was just the alcohol, that was taking me to this different place. It just wasn't me. The truth is, it wasn't really me.
It sounds like your Achilles heel when it came to quitting alcohol was quite literally, how am I going to function socially? But it sounds like you've I was going to ask you, what did you do to overcome that? But it sounds like you got there by understanding that you was an introvert. And then when you went out, you didn't have to do anything of it. You could actually sit in the shadows and be comfortable with not having to socialize I got inverted commas around socialize, because we assume socializing is cracking a load of dirty jokes, flirting, fucking about. But you can socialize just by listening and holding presence, right?
Yeah, and that was, again, I think you used the word liberating for me, and that was the most scary thing as well. So it was probably one of the biggest benefits and the most scary thing, because I looked at it and thought, am I going to lose my persona? Am I going to be boring? Is everyone going to look at me and go, hold on, where's Fun Time Andy? Now he's just turning up and actually listening to what we're saying. Don't get me wrong, I still have to crack and still, make more jokes now than ever. It's not like that's disappeared, but when you're at the sort of precipice of this and you're looking over the edge going, am I going to just say goodbye to all of that fun stuff that happens when you have a few drinks, when reality is not that much fun, is it, when you actually analyze it. But I found that quite daunting, and that stopped me. And I think that stops lots of people making this initial leap, as it were, or initial change, because the first thing a lot of people say to me is, well, am I going to be boring? You know, one of my best friends said, what's going to happen to Fun Time Colin? His name's Colin. You know, if I don't drink, and that's where I was. And I understand that, but again, it's not until first-hand experience or role models such as yourself or myself now, at least people can look up and actually hear your story and go, maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Maybe I'll still have a laugh. Maybe I'll still have fun. And then once you prove that to yourself a few times, it becomes easy in many ways.
I guess it's just time, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people worry about it, and it's just like, okay, accept that you're going to worry about it, accept that it's going to feel uncomfortable, and that's just the way it is. There's no secret here. And then when you go out, a couple of things will happen in it. One, over time you'll get used to it, or two, you'll say to yourself, what the fuck am I doing here? Yeah. Right. And then you just go and find a walking group or a reading group or a yoga retreat, or go, what did I used to do? I used to go when I quit drinking, the first thing I did was go to the movies on my own all the time. And then I was talking to my mate on the phone. He was a big drinker, and he said, what are you doing later on? No, I'm going to movies. Who are you going to movies with? Going on my own. You go to the fucking movies on your own, you big gay boy. What's the matter with you? And I was like, well, come with me if you want. I can't go with you. It's even gayer than you going on your own. Come on, come to the movies. And then he came, and then he's like, right, we're going to do this next week. And that became our thing. We would go to the movies together because his wife wasn't interested in that. And that was his way of connecting with me, because he knew I would never go to a pub with him anymore. That was just me. I know a lot of people do continue going to pubs with their mates and stuff, but I realized, like you said, Andy, that it wasn't just me that was wearing this facade, wearing this mask. All my so-called friends were. Yeah. So I couldn't live like that anymore. I needed to meet Andy's and the people on the Strive Forum now. That's the place I go to for my authenticity. Not my wife, of course, and her family are very good at that as well, because drinking's not in their life, but you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. And I always say that to lots of people, things will change. You can kid yourself and think you're still going to be running around nightclubs at 2 a.m. thinking this is great, alcohol free. For some people can do that. Rory, again, who's the co-founder of this, he's the sort of guy, he's at like one end. He's an absolute extrovert in so many ways. I'm almost at the other end. We go to a lot of these networking things, and it's funny. He's literally like, boom, like a bullet, like a missile straight up the front, handing out his business cards, and I'm like hanging around the Volivant. To like bump into someone. Do you know what I mean? That's where we're very opposite. But he can go to nightclubs and still have fun. I wouldn't enjoy that at all. Past sort of 11 o'clock, most people, unfortunately, who have been drinking turn into complete knobs. It's just, some people don't, but on the whole, lots of people do. So for me, these days, I do a lot of socializing, but I try and get out of Dodge. I'm very much like make like Cinderella and disappear, before the clock strikes midnight is the way I do it. For all you American listeners, a complete knob is a dickhead. Americans love it when we say knob, because they never say, and Volivant, you just give me I just went right into my deep parts of my memory palace, where I used to go to parties and used to have the prawn cocktail Volivants, and it would just stick my tongue in and eat all the prawns and leave the Volivant case in behind. Just like the pastry. Yeah. I haven't heard that word Volivant for ages. One of the things that I do, and I encourage people on my forum to do, is this. If you want to go out with your mates, you really enjoy their company, then go out with them. All right. But every group will be different. But here's what my group are like. If we're not doing something like playing poker or a snooker tournament or a darts tournament or something, if we're just by the bar drinking, people get drunk very, very, very quickly. Right. Yeah. I don't know why this is. When we play poker, they'll drink the same, but they don't get as drunk. I think it's because they're concentrating on the game, right? So when I'm with me poker mates, they can drink as much as like. I could be with them all night, ain't going to bother me. And I want them to drink more because I can take more money off them, right? Yeah, exactly. If I'm just going out with them when they're drinking, then come 9 o'clock, I'm gone. But I can tell you, from going out there till 9, I have a pretty good time. because they're not drunk. So I'm able, because I've changed, I'm able to drag out of them a little more of who they really are because of my line of questioning. But once 9 o'clock comes, I don't want to be in that situation because they'll do my head in. And in the beginning, they would take the piss a little bit. But now it's all hugs and kisses. It's like, hey, Lee, he's going. There he is. He's and they just get on with their life. So, yeah, go out for the beginning bit and then just leave the smashed, fucked up, shagging people behind the bus stop bit.
Exactly. That's what I say. Go to the fun stops. And when it dries up, don't try and be a hero, because I think that a lot of people make that mistake, especially in the early days of, right, I'm on this alcohol-free adventure. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling brilliant. And they throw themselves back into a social scene, and it is different. And then they stay too long. That's what I say to people: don't stay too long, because that bit up until 9 o'clock is great fun. Everyone's still on your level, the crack's still going. But if you can feel that the mood's changing, and then 9 becomes 10, becomes 11, becomes 12, and suddenly you find yourself stuck with a load of drunk people that have probably been wrecking your head for the last 2 hours, then you've got to try and get everyone home in a taxi, and there's always a bit of drama, a bit of over-the-top emotion that you don't forget. Suddenly your night becomes rubbish, and it actually puts you off socializing, which is the worst thing. We encourage people to be even more sociable. But again, play the law of averages. There's a good chance that after 9, it's probably not going to be as much fun as it was prior to 9. So go out, smash it, be really sociable, and then duck out.
The only time I would advise anybody to do anything different is if they were deliberately going out to really experiment within their sobriety. So what I mean by that is, right, tonight I'm going to go out and I'm going to stay to the end to really see what happens to people when they drink, what happens to the environment, what happens to the mood, what is going on that I couldn't see before when I was in the midst of it. In that respect, go do it, because I think it will really help you out to break those psychological connections you have to this perceived value that alcohol provides you, because you'll be able to see that it's a lie, so, by all means, go do it. So 1 year no beer. How did the idea come about to, you do 30 day, 60 day, 90 day, 365, you do different challenges. So how did that all form?
Well, initially it was the challenge was 1 year no beer. It rhymed and it sounded a bit silly. And the reason that came about was because I felt like we needed an excuse. This was me personally.
Yeah.
Again, as mentioned, it was for 5 years of sort of banging around for a couple of years before I actually cracked it. But I always felt like I needed some sort of excuse to grab onto if I met clients. And that was the idea behind 1 year no beer. One, I thought it was so big that it would throw people a little bit because it was a whole year off alcohol. And two, it just gave me something to stand behind for every now and again when I'd bump into a client that I hadn't seen for a while, and they were the pressure moments when normally I'd just cave in. It allowed me just to say, do you know what, I've started this challenge and I'm 2 months in now and I'm really enjoying it and I'm going for it. And then it would spark conversation. So that was the whole idea behind 1 year no beer. I bumped into Rory on part of that journey, and then we got together and said, this is bloody amazing. He had the same experience as me that we described earlier on.
Yeah.
And we set up, we created a little ebook actually, and we just said, let's just put it out into the world and see what happens. And we had lots of people come, we put up an email list and off we went. And then what we realized is that actually the whole 1 year thing was scaring people off a bit. They were like, well, I couldn't do a year, but maybe I could do 30 days or whatever. So what we've done, we've lowered the bar to the the minimum, let's say, which is 28 days. We've got a book coming out in December, actually, 28th of December. It's a 28-day alcohol-free challenge. We've lowered the bar to to its minimum, let's say, to get people in the front door just to experiment. Yeah, that's what we're like. Just come and do it. Just come and do 28 days. See what happens. If you feel great and you get your vibrancy back and your energy back, keep going. But really, the most popular challenge we do is the 90-day. And the reason the 90-day one is the most popular, I think, because most people feel that they can do 28 days or they've done a dry Jan or whatever it is. But we always sort of say that the magic happens somewhere between 30 and 90 days. That's when I think most people work it out. Whoa, this is really powerful. I can do this. Because I think for 28 days or 30 days, you can almost lock yourself away and become a bit of a social hermit and not go out. I mean, that's what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm doing dry Jan. I'm going to hate every minute of it. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to see anyone. And this is rubbish. And all they're going to do is dream of like 1st of Feb, where they're going to go out and get absolutely smashed for the next few days, or they're going to use it as this medal of honor where they can wave it around all year and go, well, I haven't got a problem with alcohol because I did dry Jan. And that gives them a license to get absolutely ironed out for the next 11 months. So we like the 3 months because you can't lock yourself away for 3 months. You have to go to maybe the wedding or the big work night, or, you have to do all those social events. That's really important. It gives you time to maybe change your exercise routines, change your diet, really get into the flow of being alcohol free, as it were. And that seems to be where all the power is. All the magic, I think, is in around that 90 days. So that's our most popular challenge, and why we have the free, basically.
And if I was to take one of those challenges, what would I expect? So if a listener was interested, what are they to expect?
All right. So every day you get an email, which is basically mapped out for 90 days. We're going to extend it to 365 days of what to expect and when to expect it, basically, from the real, like the day one is write all your reasons why you're here, because that's super powerful. Like, really list them down. Day 2, for example, is book a physical challenge, which might sound a bit strange, but that's huge. That really seems to help people. I think they've got this challenge to aspire to at the end of their 90 days, for example. And that doesn't have to be climbing Everest. That, for some people, that could be walking 5Ks. For others, it could be running a marathon. But that seems to be really powerful. So you get these daily emails, what you need to know when you need to know it. You get access to the Facebook groups, which we've got really super powerful Facebook groups, and forums. We've got private forums as well, in case you need that. You get daily video of my big bad self. Again, bringing the learning to life a little bit. We've got loads of resources on the sites, which is audio experiences. We've had, lots of guest speakers. We've recorded all those videos. It's all alcohol-based, alcohol-free based, let's say, from Pat Divilly, who's a top sort of life coach in Ireland, all that sort of stuff. So it's tons of resources, tons of learning wrapped around this community, really. And then the role models of ourselves, and actually the people become the role models. You'll see it in your own groups.
Yeah, we're seeing that now.
And their transformations are just so powerful, because they're just like me and you, or people in the group can identify with them. They're not some, pearly white, super tanned life coachy guy who's saying you can be brilliant just like me if you do this. They're just normal people like them, and that makes a huge difference.
I think so. I'm already, with just 15 regular posters, I'm struggling to keep up. Right? So we've already had to go into the community and say, right, who wants to step up a little bit to make sure that everybody is responded to, is treated well, etc., etc. And here's my thinking of it. Someone who's just gone 2 weeks sober is probably more adept at teaching someone to get 2 weeks sober than I am, because I've been 8 years sober. I don't think you need to have a lot of sobriety behind you to teach somebody else what you've learned. Okay, to be like a full-on kind of team leader, getting in there, etc., maybe you need a bit more time behind yourself. But to put your arm around someone who's like just 1 day sober, you only need to be someone who's done that day, who's been in that time period,
That's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, and that's been our philosophy since the start. It's like if you've done a week, you can help the guy that's just done a day. And if you've done 10 days and 90 days or whatever it is, you can keep, like, from the very start, we encourage people to give back. It's a really important part. You've got experience, you've got advice. A lot of people say, but I've only done 10 days. What can I offer? And it's like, you can offer so much, because you've just gone through what that day one person's about to face. Exactly as you said, it's much fresher in your mind than it is in mine. And then that creates a really nice snowball in many ways, because they give back, you give back, you give back. And then suddenly you get these big, long, forum posts or huge threads or Facebook posts, again, huge threads where people come out in support. And it works really well. And what we've done, again, as you evolve, we've got lots of ambassadors in our groups now that come to us. We look after them in many ways. They get, free courses, or, we're always, there for them. So we've got this community that's grown within a community, then go out and help people, as it were, support people, encourage people, also moderate the group, because, there has to be an element of that going on. And that sort of feeds itself, and it's onwards and upwards. But the huge thing is that giving back. It makes such a difference.
We were saying the other day, someone put a thread on there about getting angry about Facebook, getting angry at themselves for spending time on Facebook, And I said to them, communities like Strive, OneYearNoBeer, your personalized Facebook group and your forum, that is really social media at its finest, because everybody who's there, no one's fake.
Yeah.
The only people you are talking to are people you want to talk to. You can talk about everything that you want to, that is important to you. Nobody's interested in ego, materialism, showing you photographs of their family just for their sake. It's exactly how I guess social media should have been before it got screwed up, right?
Exactly. And no one's in there posting about their holiday, or they've checked into some flash place bullshit that I really don't do social media at all, ironically, apart from the OneYearNoBeer.
Business. Yeah.
That's it. I don't do it personally, even though I wasn't even on Facebook before we set up OneYearNoBeer. I had to set up a Facebook account, for it. So no, it sounds silly, but I encourage people to take a break from social media. That's a big deal. I said, look, use your OneYearNoBeer if you need to, and you enjoy it, but try and stay away from Facebook, because I just don't think it's very helpful.
No, I totally agree. And you've got a podcast as well, right?
Yeah, which we loved it. We did it for probably about 11 episodes. There's some great people: Gretchen Rubin, Ryan Holiday. We had some
top people then.
Yeah. We were absolutely sort of flying with it, but we just couldn't maintain it. We couldn't maintain the weekly podcast that we'd set up for ourselves. We just had too much on between jobs, and as OneYearNoBeer was growing, we were like, look, we're gonna have to come back to it. So Rory, the other co-founder, he's just quit his job, which is super exciting. And that's gonna open him up to do a lot more of these sort of things, because he's going to get a lot more time. You know yourself, it's so difficult. I mean, you're amazing for even managing to do this around a job and a family and all that sort of stuff. So we had to basically weigh everything up, and something had to give. And unfortunately, it was a podcast that had to give. Yeah,
it's what I always wanted when I worked on the railway. And one of the reasons I left was because I didn't like working with someone who was casting their values and beliefs on how business should run onto me. So I was forced to operate in a way that went against my own values and beliefs. So I always said, when I create something myself, there's a very particular way that I want it to run. And I want it to be run from within, so the people themselves run it. So I'm very fortunate in as much as I have members of Strive now reaching out to people like you, asking you to come on the podcast. So and asking how they can help in other ways as well. So that's really helping at the moment. They're really taking charge of the environment, because we're like you. We want our children to be able to say, my mum and my dad are cool because they don't drink. Whereas when we grew up, it was very polarized, wasn't it? If you drunk, you was cool, and if you didn't, you was a nerd and we're going to beat you up and steal your pocket money, type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you were almost a social outcast. I can't really remember anyone growing up, even in my parent circle, didn't drink. And actually, in many ways, that's still the case.
Yeah.
To the truth of it, all my social circles. Am I the only one who doesn't drink? I think I'm the only person I know. Yeah, I'm the only person who doesn't drink.
I know. When I quit, I was the only person I knew, apart from my granddad, who had quit. I knew a few people who had never drunk. A few. One in my poker game, a guy, and a girl that I knew that had grew up that had never drunk. But everybody else just did it because that's what people like us, where we live, did. Let me ask you a question. I got my head around the challenges thing and the support you give to people and everything. It sounds fantastic. One thing we did at Strive is we really niched ourselves down into a place where we ain't never going to attract a lot of people deliberately, right? So we deal with people who don't want to believe it's a brain disease, and who want to quit. So if anybody comes to me and they want to moderate, I always say to them, oh, no, we don't do that here. But let me find you a home where somebody can help you out, right? What about yourself at OneYearNoBeer? What is your philosophy? Are you open arms to everybody? Do you have a particular niche like we do? How does it work?
Yeah, we've played around with this quite a lot, because, again, you've got that whole spectrum, let's say, and this is something I'm really passionate about. There's that whole spectrum of drinkers, isn't there? And the conventional wisdom at the moment says you either have a problem with alcohol, whatever that means, no one really knows, but you either have a problem with alcohol or you don't. That's it. it's back to that. You either drink or you don't drink. There's nothing in between. And actually there's this whole wide spectrum of people, from the guy that drinks or the girl that drinks once a month, to the evening drinker who maybe has one glass of wine, to the bottle of wine, a night drinker. And then it goes all the way over to people that are completely dependent and need specialized treatment.
Yeah.
So we've very much tried to stay away from anything that requires specialized treatment. Let's say anyone who's alcohol dependent, or anyone who feels that they've lost control of their relationship with alcohol. We're basically aiming at everyone else, from almost the once a month drinker all the way through to someone who's in that hazy, don't I have a problem. And that's quite hard to manage, if you know what I mean, because then our message, for example, is go and try alcohol-free beers.
Yeah.
We promote that a lot. And if I was talking to someone who was dependent or had, more serious concerns, I wouldn't be advising that early on. So we're constantly having to re-promote the message that we're aimed at this group of people. And if you feel that anyway, dependent, or that your relationship with alcohol is getting out of control, we're not for you. We don't offer that type of professional service. So that's our sort of, I guess it's niche. It's quite a broad brush, really, that we're trying to paint. And that brings with it its own, issues and, rewards at the same time. You can get someone who come in who drinks very rarely, but still get a great buzz out of doing the OneYearNoBeer challenge. Or you can take people that I guess classically would have ticked every box, if you know what I mean, but they like the ethos, they like the approach, they like the change of mindset. There's nothing to give up and everything to gain. Seems to work really well. So just to finish, in terms of moderation, we're happy for people to moderate. If that works for them, brilliant. Our complete mission is to transform people's relationship with alcohol in whatever form that takes. That could mean total abstinence, like myself, or it could mean controlled. I don't like moderation; it's not a great word. Rory, for example, co-founder, he drinks every now and again when he wants to.
Yeah.
He's got total control in the sense that he might not drink for 4 months, and then he might decide to have a drink or go away with his wife and have a bit of a knees up. And then he won't drink for another 2 months or 4 months. He's totally flipped it on its head. I think it's very difficult for lots of people to do. So I'm all up for it. I'm all up for encouraging people if that's what they want to experiment with. But I do think it's very difficult for lots of people to manage real control like that. I think lots of people struggle with it. So just to sort of summarize that, really, we're always trying to sort of aim slightly below that hazy problem area, let's say, rather than, the specialist help.
I think it's important that we should all stick together as well. I think,
100%.
So when I recently had somebody on my forum considering moderation, I said, okay, so you don't believe it's a brain disease? No. And you want to moderate? Yeah. Okay. Hello Sunday Morning would be a really good forum for you. I can now add OneYearNoBeer to that as well, right? I wrote a blog post to everybody saying, look, this is what we're about. But if that doesn't fit your own kind of psychographics, your own kind of demographics, then here's some options where you can go somewhere else. Because it's not that we're turning people away because we want to hurt them. We're turning people away because it will hurt them to stay with us. So if someone was really super dependent on alcohol, who needed to go through a detox, and they turned up at OneYearNoBeer or on myself's place of Strive, we would be doing a disservice. So we have someone at the moment who's doing a whole medical detox, who comes on and asks for advice. And we just said, well, you need to seek medical advice. And then we can see by the interactions that is happening, and that's developing. But yeah, I think if you're listening to this, folks, I do think it's important that places like OneYearNoBeer, Hello Sunday Morning, Soberistas, AA, Strive, they all offer if they offer something different, that's not a bad thing, because there's so many people, we're killing 2.5 million people a year. So, what is it? I read the other day, 55% of people in the world have tried alcohol. So that's what, 3.5 billion, maybe more, so we have enough, to divvy around.
Oh yeah. Do you know what? And that's a really lovely point. The way I sort of describe it is that we're all on the same team. We're just playing in different positions.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important because, again, I remember back to that 5 years ago when I first decided, right, I'm going to start looking into this. It felt like there was nothing. It felt like there was the AA or there was nothing. And now it's wonderful to see what you're doing and what we're doing. And it's not to say that we're right and everyone else is wrong. We're actually all just adding colour to the to the landscape so that people can actually cherry pick what works for them. Because, you know, OneYearNoBeer might not work for someone, but what you're doing might work perfectly for them, or the AA might work for them, or whatever. I think there's this whole spectrum, and it's great now that this groundswell of these organizations are starting to come up to give people options, you know, and we are absolutely, my take on this, anyone who's trying to help people transform their relationship with alcohol in any way has total love, respect and admiration for me in whatever way they present that, because it's a really powerful place to be, and there are so many people that need help in different ways.
It's not spoken about a lot, and it should be spoken about more. So let's speak about it. People like Andy, myself, Lucy Rocker, is it Chris Rain, Sunday morning, whatever. We have to have a business head on. Back in the day, me and Andy used to watch a program called Wheels or Gummidge.
Yeah.
I bet you don't have it in America. We have to sometimes, there's a scarecrow that had different heads for different times. Sometimes we have to screw a business head on. Why do we have to do that? Well, me and Andy, I'm speaking for Andy here, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. We want to reach the maximum number of people we can reach before we die to help them to reduce that 2.5 million number. That will be our goal, right? Is that about right?
Yep, absolutely.
Right. So to get to that goal, we can't just willy-nilly just pop up a podcast, start talking and hope things happen. We actually have to train, educate ourselves. We have to think to ourselves, right, how can we disrupt people's lives in a good way and get their attention? And it means that we have to create businesses. OneYearNoBeer is a business. Truth About Alcohol is a business. But within those business frameworks are the beating hearts of them are living, breathing communities, you know. And I just read a fantastic book by Tobias Leinart. I'm going to interview him next week, actually. And it's how to create a vegan world, right?
Right, yeah.
Because I find so many parallels with veganism and alcoholism. Yeah. And his view is pretty much like yours, that hang on a minute now, if we have this idealistic view, which Strive has at the moment, which I've created deliberately and have my reasons for that. If you have an idealistic view, then you're not going to be able to tap into this huge, big swell of people. So in the vegan movement, it's, if you want to create a business, it's not the vegans and the vegetarians who are eating all the non-meat products. It's the reducetarians, people who are just having a go. So if you take that parallel across to what you're doing, the biggest swell of people out there that you can actually influence are the moderators. It won't be the staunch Lee Davies or the staunch Andy Ramages. It will be the Ruris of the world, right? Yeah. So I just want to say what you're doing, I think, is smart and it is the right thing to do. At the Strive and Truth About Alcohol, we're more idealistic to get our feet off the ground and get the balls rolling and to create a groundswell of a movement. And then in the future, maybe we can be more pragmatic. But right now, I think from a business perspective, and this isn't business perspective to make money, it's a business perspective to grow, to attract more people. No, that's a lie. Money is important because I need to quit my job like Ruri has to apply more time into this. So money is important as well. That's why we're more idealistic. So what am I blathering on about this for? The point is, when people arrive and then someone says, no, sorry, this isn't for you, I need to send you somewhere else. There's a reason why. It's not like we're not being ogres or orcs or anything like that.
Yeah, do you know what? It's a brilliant point, because when we started like OneYearNoBeer, we said, look, we're just going to give all this away for free. You know, both in super well-paid jobs, felt very fortunate, and we were like, look, this is one of those sort of subjects. Let's just try and help people for free, for example. And then we spent tons of money, right? Which is not the end of the world. We were both willing to contribute, and we got to the point actually we're spending more and more money. And then what tended to happen, because everything we were doing was for free, we started to attract, I think, the wrong kind of person into the groups. People weren't actually doing the learning because it was too easy to come in and not actually commit to anything. And actually the results started to decline a little bit. And then we couldn't reach any more people. We plateaued really quickly. And we reached a point where we were going to close everything down. We just couldn't keep going. We were both completely burnt out, stressed out. You know, we were almost going to sort of bankrupt ourselves in trying to bankroll this thing as it tried to grow. And then by a bit of a fluke, we thought we'll try and actually turn this into some sort of a business in the right way for the right ideals like yourself. One, to generate income, but two, so we can be bigger and reach more people and actually have better systems and build even more improved habit change systems and advertise, for example, on Facebook. I mean, let's think, say the alcohol industry spends billions on marketing. I mean, we're just awash with it. There's no one coming the other way. Wouldn't it be cool if we could build this thing that was actually big enough that suddenly there was a billboard with someone looking super cool, not drinking? Do you know what I mean? You know,
well, I hope they put your body up there and not mine.
Yeah. Your face, my body. There you go.
I don't know about
That'd be the perfect combo. But do you know what I mean? And we thought, actually, we've got an opportunity. We're both businessmen. We've been successful. We understand that idea. We've got, you know, the ideal behind this is to help lots and lots of people. If we can actually, you know, be clever about this, we can potentially then go out and advertise. And it's all for the right reasons is the point. It's like social entrepreneurship, using people's brains and abilities to actually do something really positive in the world. And I think that's a really good thing. And exactly that, you've hit the nail on the head. If Rory can do this full time, the amount of extra love that he can give people, the amount of extra reach and the amount of extra resource he can give is huge. And maybe I'll be able to do that down the line.
I mean, let's think. Right now, I've got a forum that's. I woke up this morning. There was 25 posts that I have to read and respond to. These aren't like, "Hey, it's Fred just saying hi." These are like people asking really deep questions. Yeah. And then on top of that, we've got a training course running at the moment, 3-month training course to help people quit alcohol. We was lucky enough to get a donor to pay for those courses so I could give them away for free. A donor is not going to give you money if you're just working from the back of your garage. I'm in a garage. But I did get a donor to give me some money. And I'll be honest as well, those training courses will be as good as my full-time position and my kids and my wife and my sanity and my physical well-being allows me to create them. Now, if I never had to work to pay the bills, imagine how much better those courses could be. Imagine how much, all right, podcast, you don't have to get any better with a podcast. I've already asked my crew, do you want a fancy jingle? They're all like, fuck off, what do we want a jingle for? You know? So, we're all right on that kind of side of thing. But yeah, I do think it's important. And if you're listening to this, the one area that I found in terms of people saying, I just haven't got the money, is this area for some reason. When it comes to quitting alcohol or looking after your health, buying supplements, eating organic food, doing the right things when it comes to your health, people are always saying, I haven't got no money. And I'm sure in the UK it's because we've got the NHS. That we're so used to not spending money. And in America, they've got AA, which doesn't charge you for anything. Look, you really aren't doing yourself any favor. If you're living in the UK right now or any, major economic company and you're part of Strive or OneYearNoBeer, I'm sorry, you can find the money to do anything you want to do when it comes. You really can. You just got to want to do it. The way that you will invest yourself into a free program or something that's free will be completely different to when you got money on the line. It really is completely different.
Yeah, I mean, we say you need a bit of skin in the game for a lot of these things. You need to make that commitment. And in the scale of things, you know, it's 1 or 2 nights out and you've paid it off anyway. Especially, you know, alcohol's one of the few places you go to the gym, you don't actually get that money back. But if you don't drink for a few nights or, you know, a couple of weekends, you save a ton of cash. It's simple as that. So it's that sort of environment where I think it's worth investing in. It genuinely is, because what you get back is so much more. And even on that note, exactly, we've got the AA, which is free, which is this amazing organization. In many ways helps a small fraction of people, that it transforms their life. You know, I've got some best friends and some role models where the AA, for example, they swear by it. It has genuinely saved their lives. And again, back to that point earlier, we're all playing for the same team, just batting in different positions. That is amazing for that subset of people that it helps, because it has saved them in many ways. But, you know, and I read a statistic recently, I think it was like 1 in 14, for example, are successful through the AA. What about those other 13 people? That's why I think there needs to be lots of different options available, like in any free market. There's lots of different options. If you don't want to pay for exercise, you can go and run around the park. or you can go to, a gym or whatever it is, or you can step it up, or you can have a personal trainer. I think it's just good to have lots of different options. I think it's super important. That's why I think what we do and what you do and all these other people, Lucy Rocker and the AA, collectively, I think is super important.
I think because we both work on a psychological aspect of things, we do a lot of work on the physical side of it as well, but it's mainly getting your head around that we've been fooled into thinking that drinking is better than it is. I think what could help you is this, right? If someone flushed the toilet and it got clogged up as shit and it all overflowed, you would have to pay for that water damage somehow. It's your house. You'd have to pay. You're not going to have your house smelling as shit. You would go out and find the money somehow to do that, right? Why is that saving your house and the smell more important than you dying or your life deteriorating? I don't get it. It's just a cognitive dissonance, folks, right? That's all that it is. You have to say to yourself, no, today I'm making a change. The most important thing in this life is my health, not my kids' health, not my husband's health, not my son's or my mum or my dad. It's my health, because if my health isn't tip top, I'm not there for my kids. I'm not there for my wife. I'm not there for my husband. Who cares about the house? Because I'll be dead. Like, I have to do it. And look, I know it's hard work. I really do. When I first started buying supplements for myself, it fucking killed me. Like I don't even know if these things are working. And I'm spending 60, 70 quid a month. Now, it's just gone. It's just like tax. It's just, I have to do it because I want to live. And I take a blood test, and they look at it and they say, Lee, you're tip top. And I keep taking them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Again, you hit the nail on the head. I think so many people don't value their health enough in many ways. They'd rather spend 50 quid on, birthday presents or whatever it is, when the reality is the best gift you can ever give yourself is to be tip top, and your family. You touched on that as well. It's not only yourself that, you're going to get in great condition and transform your world. It's all those people around you and the people around them. It has that pay it forward effect, most definitely. Anyone that takes a break from alcohol, I know I've positively influenced all of my friends and my family in so many ways. All right, they might still drink, but they drink a lot less, and they're definitely conscious of what's going on in their life, and probably over time lots of them will stop drinking. I think, when they're ready. So it's such a huge thing, for everyone. I think if you consider yourself a role model to your family and your children and whatnot, this is a wonderful thing to do. And I think that's super important.
Yeah, I got a 16-year-old boy, lives with his mum. She's already started drinking about a year ago. What am I going to do? I'm not going to start preaching to him. I just have to say to him, Jude, even though your dad does what he does, I just want you to know that if you get yourself in a tough spot for taking something or drinking or getting drunk or whatever, your dad's there for you, right?
Yeah.
Be sensible with what you're doing. And that's it. The rest of the time, I'm his dad who doesn't drink. Yeah. That's the best thing that I can ever do.
100%. Yeah, with you. And that's what I love. I love being that role model for my daughters. I don't have to do anything. I just be me, be happy, be a good dad, be on top form all the time. And they can see that. They know what a difference that's made in my life because I don't drink. And they're all proud of it at the moment. I mean, it'd be nice that they'll have the yin and the yang. My wife still drinks. She's a good Irish girl and still probably overcooks it from time to time, as they tend to do, as I did once. So I don't hold any judgment, far from it. But our girls get to see both sides of the coin, let's say. And I think that's really, really important, for a parent. I think that's the best thing you can possibly do.
I'm going to ask you one more question before I let you go, because this is probably the biggest issue I see that happens today and leads to so many relapses. You said that your wife drinks, you don't drink, you don't even moderate, So many people on my forum have so many difficulties with this. I got divorced because of it. People question all the time whether they should be with the person they're with because they drink and they don't anymore. How has your experience been with it? What advice could you give to people who right now have just quit drinking and they're thinking, this guy's drinking a couple of glasses a night and I don't want to be with them anymore? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it is a tricky one because exactly that, your world can change so much, and I was worried about that. I must admit, I thought, is this going to actually, for me and my wife, bring us apart in many ways, because I'm just not into that anymore. My life's going off different trajectory. Not that she drinks a lot, but she does. It's the same social circles. But the way I built myself up to such a point that I'd created this really vibrant world, and I was having all these lovely experiences. I just thought, this is quite a personal journey that I'm on. It's not my wife's journey or my friend's journey. This is my journey, and I'm loving it. I do feel super healthy. My eyes are bright again. I'm getting all these wonderful advantages. I'm just not going to drink. In fact, to the point, I just don't care. I'm not. That's why I don't drink, to be fair. That's why I don't even bother trying to moderate, because why would I moderate? Why would I go back to lethargy and regret and all that shit stuff when I've got all these positive experiences going on? To such the point, I think I just had this mindset shift, and that's what I'm always trying to encourage people to shift their mindset from giving something up to gaining such an advantage. It just didn't matter to me anymore. It didn't really matter that my best friend still drunk a shed load, or my wife would go out and have a couple of glasses of wine or whatever it was, or that my parents would still drink, because I just didn't care. I know that sounds, it's probably not almost a step-by-step advice in many ways, but the point is, I think you can reach the point where you just don't need it and you just don't care for it, and it just does nothing for you. So what? If someone else drinks, that's up to them. They're missing out. I'm the one with the advantage. I'm the one that's going to wake up feeling bloody brilliant on Saturday morning, and they're going to be the ones that's hanging. So I think over time it just stopped me caring. It doesn't bother me.
You separate. I think what you said is you separated your journey. You realize this is my personal journey. It has nothing to do with my wife. She'll get impacted by it, obviously, because she lives with you. Yeah. But don't try to make it. Don't try to drag her into it. This is just my thing. I think is really powerful there. And I guess as well, Andy, it really depends how the person who's drinking is impacting your life. So it sounds like yours isn't. Mine, my ex-wife certainly was. Like it was a nightmare, and I just couldn't deal with that. So I guess people are just going to have to be patient and think about it deeply, and see what they're willing to accept or not accept. It's all about boundaries, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, with this whole drinking thing, when you stop it, lots of things that have been hidden or self-medicated against do come to the surface. Lots of people self-medicate because they're socially very awkward, or they self-medicate because actually they're a bit depressed. But a lot of these things do bubble to the surface, or they drink because they're not happy in their relationships.
Yeah.
So I think there's what tends to happen when you take it away. These things do come to the forefront. Now, better to deal with them with a clear head, whether that's, doing CBT or mindfulness if you're depressed, or, you can work on social anxiety. And it's the same in your relationships, I think. And it might well be that when that comes to a fore, that actually you realize that maybe you don't love this person, or maybe you can work on it together to build a better relationship. So I think it's probably always going to surface in some shape or form, not just around the drinking journey, if you know what I mean. It might be that, again, your drinking was a reason to mask certain things. So I think it's an exciting time, I think, to reflect and review.
Yeah, I have a separate video series called the Alcohol Monologues, where I re-listen to this, and I do 4 little videos when I go deeper into something we've spoke about. And I'm going to go deeper into that, living with a drinker, because as you said that, then I smiled. I actually believe I'm great at these, like, I believe, so the world must be this way statements. So I'm going to deliver another one right now. When people say they've quit drinking and their partner's bugging them because they're drinking 1 or 2 beers a night, I actually believe the partner just bugs them. I think the presence of the beer is a red herring. I think you just realizing I don't really like this person, and that's all right, because I don't like my wife that much sometimes, and she doesn't like me that much sometimes, but we love each other.
Yeah.
So you just need to. I think that is a good realization. Acceptance is that it's not the beer. It's like, oh, yeah, there's some things I don't like about my partner. I need to figure out whether I'm happy to accept them for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and this is really important because it comes up so much. I see it in the OneYearNoBeer forums and Facebook groups all the time. My partner's not supporting me; they're still drinking. Yeah. And again, I think you have to make it your own personal journey. You can't expect other people to join you on this journey necessarily. And it's about awareness and reflection and being open and honest, and actually reviewing your relationship with that person. Is it the beer that's annoying you, or is it the fact that they just annoy you? You know, but exactly, you hit the nail. And that's give and take of any relationship. And you might find that a lot of people use alcohol to mask it. And I think they do. I think that is a common occurrence.
Yeah, I mean, my parents are a classic example. What they've been together, 41 years probably. That, you know, they don't deal with issues. That's not what they do. They bury them. Yeah, they'll never deal with them. They'll take them to the grave. You know, it's the way it is. Andy, thank you for your time. Coming up to 90 minutes. I've really, really appreciated it. I've learned a lot more about 1 Year No Beer. Hopefully, I'll be able to send some people your way who end up at Strive wanting to moderate, and we can put them in safe hands. So that's really good. I really appreciate that, and it's been great having you on.
Yeah, and vice versa. You know, this is great. It's been great to meet you, and again, really, what I want to try and create is a network of people like us, because it is so super important. As I said, there's so many shades to this whole giving up alcohol. Whether, you know, I think it's important that we all stick together and we'll know, you know, and learn from each other. So people have got tons of options. Like, all we care about is that people transform their relationship with alcohol. I don't care how they do it. Yeah. You know, when they go to the AA, it's brilliant, or they come to you, or they come to me, or they don't come to any of us. You know, that some way we influence people to go, do you know what? I'm not paying that bloody money to do that, or I could do that myself, and then they do it. That's amazing. Yeah. You know, we're all winners, you know, as long as people do change their relationship with alcohol. And I think that's super important.
I agree. Thank you.
Cool.